As the world falls away and I can't find a reason, as the world turns to gray, it's killing me unwillingly, and I am just the same as you.
All images, footage, music, songs, etc. belong to their respective owners. I don't own anything. No copyright infringement intended. This is only for review/rants purposes only. I own absolutely nothing. Hey guys, Lonely Vampire Freddy here, and for the very first time, yes, I don't able to have to record anything off of my computer anymore. Which means that from now on, all the videos like this one would be like this, with better quality. Even though my microphone is just still the same, but I digress. And to celebrate the fact that The Incredibles 2 is coming out in about 2 weeks or so, I decided to review 2 Pixar movies. The first Incredibles, and the movie I'm about to talk about. And that movie is A Bug's Life. A movie that came out 3 years after Toy Story, and it's the second Pixar film. However, no one talks about it or even remembers it. I mean, some people do like it, but at the same time, they don't consider one of the most favorite Pixar movies. Most of them consider underrated for the most part. And in my opinion, I did grow up watching this. And I've seen reviews about why people don't talk about A Bug's Life that much. Considering the fact that after this movie, Pixar movies have become more improved later on. And I, for one, kind of agree on that. Because the only thing that people remember from A Bug's Life is that during that time, Ants was also released as well, which was DreamWorks' very first animated film. And then afterwards, well, not for a long time until the 2010s, DreamWorks and Pixar or Disney were facing off each other on animation films. Monsters Inc. vs. Shrek, Finding Nemo vs. Shark Tale, and more specifically, this movie against A Bug's Life. Yeah, I completely see the similarities between this and future movies. But I'm not comparing A Bug's Life and Ants, since that this is mainly focused on Pixar's second time releasing an animated film. Now, Toy Story was a masterpiece. However, there were still rookies during the 1990s, since they're doing new technology every time they start a new animated feature. And this movie is all about insects, so they're taking to a new perspective, unlike toys. Let's not waste any more time. This is my review of A Bug's Life. The movie opens up with a bunch of ants collecting food for the grasshoppers on the offering stone. For most of a while, the grasshoppers will go to Ant Island and get the food. So this is basically what the ants do. They get food and harvest it for the grasshoppers. And what we introduce next is Princess Ada, Dot, and their mother. And to be quite honest, they're okay, but at the same time, they're not easily memorable. Unlike the characters in Toy Story where they actually put development in them, the character development in this movie is kind of mixed. Yeah. And keep in mind, this is the second Pixar movie. So let's get into our main protagonist of the film, Flick. Flick in this movie is an inventor and he completely is an outcast among the ant colony. So he just makes inventions to make sure that everyone in the entire ant colony will live a better place. However, no matter how much he tries, it always messes up. Well, it's just basically accidental mistakes. Here's the problem with this movie. They completely show us that Flick, the main character, has a problem with messing things up. Well, in my opinion, not really. Now, his harvester didn't have any malfunctioning problems because all it ever did is just throw the leaves and just accidentally hit Princess Ada. That's literally the only thing he ever did. And for the biggest mistake that he did was also similar to this. But completely different, but not in a completely messed up way. The point I'm trying to make here is that even though that Flick's harvester almost completely injured the princess, it still wasn't a malfunctioning problem. Most of the inventions that Flick made in this movie are just harmless. Especially that it's actually a good idea for a harvester for the other ants to use, but the fact that the other ants completely rejected Flick's idea point blank and somehow irritated by him is just too forced. Again, this may be the second Pixar movie, but at the same time, Pixar was still a rookie at this point. And just because they made one masterpiece, that doesn't automatically mean that they're masterpieces. Until, like, in the middle of the 2000s or something like that. Also, the only relationship we get in this movie is Flick and Dot. Which, sorry, but there's not gonna be a lot of scenes between these two characters. There's also some kind of romance relationship, but I'll get to that later. In my opinion, this relationship is just basically typical. I mean, the little kid loves the other guy's strange ideas while the others don't. I just seen this kind of stuff before. And even though I grew up watching this movie, I can easily understand of what they're trying to do. But other than this relationship, there's really nothing else in this movie. And the fact that it's pretty much one of the only things we get to see in this movie. Well, besides the romantic subplot, but I'll get to that later. So, the grasshoppers are about to be alive to eat the food. The ants get into the anthole except for Flick, since he's the last one who's about to get his food to the offering stone. However, when he took off his office and rushing to the anthole, this happens. The harvester completely dumped all the food into the water, which means that all the food that the ants took their time to get is completely all gone, which means they're in deep trouble. Okay, let's address the Flick mess up thing again. This is like the other times that I mentioned about Flick's harvester was also a mistake. It wasn't a mess up because Flick was just in the rush because he needs to get to the anthole. I mean, if he could just easily just use the harvester and just throw it at the food and probably just leave the harvester on the ground, it will probably won't make a difference. But the fact that he's just in a very rushful situation that the grasshoppers are coming, you can understand that the mistake that he did was just a freak accident. And not only that, it's one of the only times we're ever going to see Flick as a mess up in this entire movie. There is one more mess up, but it's just basically another confusing writing direction that the writers did in this movie. And of course, due to the food completely all gone, all the grasshoppers get upset. And the leader of the grasshoppers is Hopper. Yeah, a slice name, but not a problem with that, I'm just saying. Completely puts the blame on Princess Ada, even though that Princess Ada didn't do anything other than taking over for her mother. And of course, they completely want the food to be doubled the next time they get back, which is going to be very, very impossible. And I'm not being sarcastic either, because I'm really serious about this. Doubling the food is just impossible, especially the amount of time that the ants have. And since the rain season has been going on recently, it's pretty difficult to harvest food for the grasshoppers. I know what they're trying to do. They're doing a reference of a movie. I'm sorry I forgot the name, but what they did in this movie, they did inspirations on two movies. Sam Samurai, I think that's what it's called, in The Three Amigos. So, I'm guessing in this movie they really have nothing to do with the ideas that they have. Like I said, Pixar are rookies in this. And don't judge me if I mispronounce rookies as the word W. I'm just saying. Before we continue on, I should talk about the villain of the movie, Hopper. Now, he has a great voice and a completely menacing villain in pretty much the very first movie where Pixar has a full-length villain. So, he does have an interesting backstory about his mom and his brother Mort. But at the same time, he still isn't that smart. I mean, the only thing that he's good at is manipulating people. But that's basically it. For the majority of the film, he completely manipulates everyone. Up until the very end, where they finally figure out what's really wrong with the grasshoppers. So, I can say that Hopper is a good villain, but at the same time, he's not that smart. Flick is about to be punished by digging some holes underground or something, but then Flick has an idea to get some royal bugs. Yeah, this is basically like Jeff Samurai and sometimes the Three Amigos mushed together, I think. Yeah, considering the fact that they figured this out after this so long, I guess maybe the only option is to take down the grasshoppers, because obviously doubling the offering food is just way too difficult for the ants. Again, not being sarcastic. But they also mentioned that the that outside of Ant Island is completely dangerous. Now, DreamWorks did the same thing with ants, with Z and Bala going in the outside of the colony and getting to serious situations, and they did. So, you may think that when this movie came out after the premiere of Ants, you think they're going to do the same thing. No. They don't do any of that. Look, I know this is a kid's movie, but at the same time, the fact that they completely mention that the outside of Ant Island is completely dangerous and they don't even show it is just very hard to believe. Anyway, during the next scene, we get to see the circus bugs performing a circus. These characters, like Doug Walker said in his Disney Channel review of this movie, is one of the main highlights of the entire film. Since they do have different kinds of personalities and pretty much great humor that can entertain the kids. However, at the same time, they're just basically the same characters going through the exact same situation that they're in. In other words, the circus thing. They're completely washed up and they don't even try whatsoever. So, they basically get fired from the circus jobs and now they're in a bar. We then get back to Flick, who isn't completely damaged after his long journey. And not only that, his journey is completely cut out in this movie. Like, we don't even see anything of what he did. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the outside world isn't completely dangerous. Especially that, even though that some of the ants in this movie have different sizes, caterpillars like Heimlich is bigger. Really bigger. I'm not sure why. Again, this is a kid's movie, but at the same time, Ants done this idea way better. Again, we'll get into the comparisons after I'm done reviewing this movie. Now, Francis the Ladybug had some people who was completely making fun of him, and he decides to put up an act that the warrior bugs. And of course, it's a whole misunderstanding when Flick sees him, and he's a talent scout. And after that hilarious misunderstanding, well, that image alone completely convinced Flick that the really warrior bugs, you can tell that another misunderstanding is coming. Well, the warrior bugs, or the circus bugs, go to Ant Island and they find out they get into a very big situation about the grasshoppers themselves. And trust me, what the ants are showing the circus bugs, you can tell that they're about to completely, get squished like all the other bugs are about to if they don't harvest food. And just by looking at this entire scene where the kids are just performing the play about what the grasshoppers are about to do, again, the reactions from the other characters are just genius. I mean, sure, it's like the Three Amigos, but at the same time, it's just really hilarious to say that the circus bugs get into a very situation between of what they're getting into with the grasshoppers. So, of course, they try to get out of the situation by telling Flick that they're actually circus bugs and not warrior bugs. They're about to leave, however, they get into a boat situation. Now, this climax in this part of the film is a very entertaining climax. I mean, they were getting to this whole misunderstanding, but now they're getting into a very big situation with the boat. Especially that Dot is actually involved into this whole situation when he's just trying to figure out what's going on. Anyway, the characters survive, and Flick has this idea to completely make a giant boat to scare the grasshoppers away. Yeah, they're still keeping the whole lie reveal thing for later, and as for the lie reveal bit that I mentioned, it may affect this movie, but at the same time, it's kind of too late for that. Why? Because here's the thing. If this happened during when they were working on the boat, and when Hopper and the others get here for the food that they demanded, it will probably make the lie reveal worked out. But the fact that they completely made the entire book completely finished just before the lie reveal thing happens, it makes the lie reveal thing completely pointless. I mean, sure, it needs to be called out, but at the same time, it really makes the book completely, well, in the background. And I'm not making this up. They really made the bullet a completely background thing during the lie reveal thing that's happening later. Anyway, let's get back to Hopper and the others.